table. Else, I'm not surprised if Elite 8 would just pick up the rhyme for themselves. If not, they just ban out Alpha. Two main heroes for them to ban out. And going up against Alliance, okay, so there you go. They ban out Alpha. That means Rhyme would probably not be coming out. But we saw Elite 8 not really putting emphasis at all on that Rhyme. They haven't quite picked it for themselves yet. They haven't quite picked it for themselves. They have banned it yesterday, but that is against 500 Fuzz, and that's 500 Fuzz actually banning the Rhyme out, not themselves. So coming into this match, a lot is on the table, right? It's who that goes into the finals. So the last pick, sorry, not the last pick, but the pick for the side of Elite 8 will be that of Vox. Vox did very, very well against Bren Esports in the previous match, and I don't know why Vox was let through instead of Bren Esports picking up the Vox for themselves.
Yeah, it makes sense because they really wanted to ban Alpha, because I think Bren Esports knew they weren't going to get the Alpha second pick on A side, because Elite 8 were just going to Alpha's won every game so far, let's just pick her. And so Elite 8 then obviously able to pick up the Vox for themselves. Now Bren Esports, I think Taka would be a really smart final pick here, and it is going to be the Idris Taka comp of reasonably recently, not as far back as the Idris Alpha comp, but Taka had a nice indirect buff because of Aftershock. Idris Taka was always a comp that worked well. It was kind of countered by Grace, because Grace's ultimate would just deny your burst damage. So they've got the Grace themselves. They're up against an Arden, who can work quite well against it, but won't work too well. Last pick for Elite 8 should be Rhyme. It would be great against Idris, all right against Taka, but just completely makes their comp almost useless against him. And then Arden can put all of his efforts into killing Vox. Rhyme can build Dragon's Eye, build up his stacks, and I think the Elite 8 will win draft if they do that.
Yep, Rhyme is the most sensible pick, and there we have it. We do see a Rhyme coming through from Elite 8. And Rhyme is just so tanky, it's almost quite impossible to just burst Rhyme down. In fact, there are, in some cases, I do actually expect Rhymes to build Dragon's Eye, because he can just stay in fights for so long. He's just so tanky. Granted, with the Dragon's Eye pickup, you do not quite have that extra crystal power when the start of the fight. You quite need 4 stacks to match the Shatter Glass that you eventually get. But with the amount of time you are in fights, it's quite easy for you to get the 4 stacks anyways. And with that Vox just poking from the back lines, you can almost immediately just slowly just wear the entirety of Bren Esports out. But the Taka and Idris comp, I want to say Taka, it's fine. You can burst down that of Vox. And if you and Idris just go on to Vox together, Vox will be will just be eliminated very quickly in the team fights. And on top of that, you have the Grace for the extra sustain as well. But I don't think Taka just does well against that of Rhyme, and I personally don't think Idris should be first pick, seeing how strong Vox have been in these past 2 games.
Yeah, I think Idris' first pick is very different to what we were expecting. I wonder how Bren Esports are going to use this, because obviously the way Bren Esports have to play is they have to dive onto the Vox, they have to execute Vox with a double dive before Arden can save him with a Vanguard, or even after the Vanguard, you've just got to burst through it. And then it kind of becomes a 2v3, and even though Rhyme is really good against their comp, it's hard for anyone to win a 2 versus 3. And so that is what Bren Esports have to do. I still think Elite 8 are in a better position. They have the Vox, really strong hero, can kite for a really long time. And they have a Rhyme, who is a counter pick, literally the perfect counter pick for Elite 8 to pick against what Bren Esports had decided to draft. So as long as they execute their comp properly, I think Elite 8 should be reasonably simple. But then again, if Bren Esports take a fight at level 6, when Taka and Idris are level 6, and Elite 8 let them snowball from there, then it could go Bren Esports' way.
Yeah, but it will not be a difficult thing as well for Bren Esports to just, turtle up and then farm up and then get to level 6, like you mentioned, and then, just snowball from there. Because let us all just be honest, right? Rhyme do not quite have the best ganking potential, although we've seen a lot of Rhymes coming through the past few days when it's let through. And the amount of early game pressure that Rhyme can put out it's quite immense. But all in all, he's not quite that ganker that we are quite used to. You can have Arden just vanguarding him into the fight itself, just chilled winds, root someone on the spot, and then just throw out Winter Spires. But Taka can easily get away from you once Idris unlocks the divergent path, can easily get away from you as well. And you risk yourself getting stunned out or getting thrown up airborne by Grace. So I think Bren Esports have got quite a good chance going up against this comp, as long as they play well, they play reserve, get to their level 6 and try to snowball from there.
Yep, so now we are loading into the house to unfold for the final game between Bren Esports and Elite 8. So casting this game, it will be yourself, Luxuria, and the fantastic I Requested Duel.
Hello, I am back once again, and we're in the third match here between these two teams. Just shows how even and how well these guys are playing together. I think it was definitely from the start going to be a close matchup, unsure of who would win. I mean, today, all in all, we had that first matchup between Impunity and Renegades, and that's always quite the grudge match to be played here. And now we see these two teams, Elite 8, a very good team, and of course up and coming have been Bren Esports themselves, who have been playing quite well. We saw that classic weapon power pedal in the first match, but since then just hasn't been let through, and the focus kind of shifted more onto that alpha, which we saw banned out into this match. So in response to that, the picks and drafts that we've seen here, it's definitely interesting to see on the side of Bren Esports, going for that Taka. It's more, it fits into this comp, and that's why they've gone for it. And I think even though Vox and Ryan being very good current meta heroes and being very strong on their own accord, as you mentioned earlier, if they're not able to catch onto Mr. Jim on this Idris and Taka, especially in the late game when Mr. Jim will be able to have that blink with the Shroud Step, it'll be a lot harder to do so. That Bren Esports might be able to win this one out. However, Vox just such a good laner at this point, and many put away. He's like, well, nothing really changed with Vox, and we do see the first blood going down to Mr. Jim. Mr. Jim falling as Anime Save Me, picking them up. Not sure what happened there. Maybe guessing having some internet connection issues. They're not actually able to save him, or just a bit of a misplay. You could call that. But going back to what Minnie said, just Vox being such a good pickup as well. There's so many strong heroes in this current meta that I think drafting is quite a difficult thing to do at this point, because you've only got 2 bans each, and it's all about the counterplay there.
Yep, and we've said it before that, Vox hasn't quite been out of the meta at all. There was one point in one of the patches, I think it was 2.7, where Vox indirectly received the nerf because of the changes made to Poison Shift and Tension Bow, right? We thought Vox would just be phased out of the meta, but so strong. I mean, for the last few patches, even not a couple of patches, but the last few patches, Vox has been so dominating in the meta. Even when Baron was around, when Baron just get first ban and then Vox immediately picked up afterwards, Vox has just been dominating the meta, and it's quite difficult to just phase this hero out because he's just so flexible as a hero. You can just build anything on Vox, and Vox will have the kite abilities, and any heroes that have got the mobility like that of Vox generally will be favored in the meta. Firstly, the mobility is key, right? To just kite around, run around, dance around with enemies, not to get caught out, reposition yourself. So a lot of things are happening for Vox, and Vox is one of the carries that has got a silence, and that is very valuable in team fights. No doubt the silence isn't the longest one in game. In fact, it's the shortest one, but it is quite a valuable CC overall.
Yeah, and I do agree with you there. It's what plays into Vox's kit of him being so strong overall, is that, well, if the enemy isn't going to be able to catch you, and they aren't going to be able to hit you, then you have that opportunity to put out more damage than the enemy, technically, and you're going to be taking less damage. I mean, I can imagine Vox just saying to the enemy, catch me if you can, while he dances, and it's how I like to explain it. Vox just dances around the enemy. It really is as it is. And we do see here now Elite 8 putting some pressure up into this lane. And meanwhile, Taka actually working on, or waiting on, the backs from the side of Elite 8 ever so patiently, is going to be able to find them. So able to steal those camps away. And it will be fairly worth, because they are worth the most gold to him. So a good trade out there. Rhyme not noticing that it was around the corner. So good job by Sync One, good plays there to make sure they took it behind the corner rather than just taking it where the minions spawn. Otherwise, he might have been caught out in the enemy jungle.
Yep.
And it's just going to help them that little bit more, especially after losing out the first blood gold. It's the only difference we see here in terms of economy. We've got 10.7k on the side of Elite 8 and 10.6 for the side of Bren Esports. So really not much difference right now. But do you think we're going to start seeing some aggression soon with first item pickups coming around the corner?
No, I think Sync One really wants to get those aftershock, get his items before actually starting any form of aggression, because currently Sync One is sitting but only at a Storm Crown, not a lot of damage unless of course you count basic attacks and the true damage coming through, but a lot of aggression, a lot of lane aggression, putting basically the entirety of Bren Esports, pushing the entirety of Bren Esports backwards.
Yes, definitely Elite 8 at this point, pushing them backwards as they take the first turret and a second blood, gain the grace as they lock them down. Chill wins, after Rhyme was able to land the Winter Spire, of course, and now we do see Elite 8 just backing out there. Sync One jumping on the backline, but really not being able to do anything at this point. You're right about that. Taka really needs some more items on board and would hope to get enough items to really focus down that Vox before he starts building up too much shield, because we can always see Vox in the early game did decide to go for that light shield.
Yep, and we've mentioned it before that Taka, currently, I don't think that Storm Crown works very, very well on Taka anymore. Taka really wants that early game burst, so maybe the Storm Guard banner into, say, an Aftershock or a Shatterglass into Clockwork would work the best for Taka, gives you the highest burst, and just push you into the early game. Because what a lot of players in Southeast Asia gets as Taka would be 2 weapon blades at the start anyways, right? You are going to use that for the initial damage, initial clear. You don't quite need that Storm Crown as the first tier 3 items. Firstly, doesn't quite do a lot of damage. And secondly, with the health increase, your Storm Crown just gets worse and worse. There is no reason anymore but just to clear for you to get a Storm Crown. And the amount of raw damage coming through from Elite 8 is just so much, just don't justify the Storm Crown pickup anymore.
Yes, I think Taka, one of those heroes who is a bit harder to play in the current meta, and we'll have to see about that as the side of Elite 8 popping down the gauntlet, trapping Bren Esports inside them. There's going to be the Valkyrie to trap them out, and Rhyme going to be able to pick up the first kill onto that Idris, and Taka just having to use Vikaku to get out of the fight. Might decide to re-engage here, but if anything, just doing so to save their turret at this point. Going onto the Vox, actually able to pick up the kill, but does get rooted afterwards. Luckily finds Vikaku to get out of there. It will have to be on Anime Save Me into the late game to hold on to a few flares, or maybe even build a contraption just so they have that vision to take out Taka, making sure he doesn't escape from those team fights, because I can imagine how crucial it will be at some points if they're not able to pick up the ace when it's necessary.
Yep, and we do see it's just quite overstaying coming through from Han Jaeger that allowed Taka, that gave Taka the kill. Taka, fortunately, very quickly building into that Aftershock already. So at this point, Taka should look for a fight, but with the amount of shooting coming through, and Han Jaeger already can pick up the Aegis, it will be very, very tough for Taka to just instantly burst him down. Granted, like we mentioned yesterday, if you have more health, it works.
Yep, and we see Taka doing the right job of going onto Vox on the backline, but does get kited back instantly, and there's going to be Idris trying to fight it off, but needs to be careful of not getting caught out by the Winter Spire coming through by the Rhyme. So it's a bit of counterplay here as we see Taka managing to find Han Jaegers and Official Hein able to find Mr. Jim. So both the junglers able to get onto the carries, but the question is, are they able to catch out the Taka? They do with the gauntlet, so it's more than likely they'll be able to pick up the kill. Sync 1 does go down to the Chill wins. Official Hind with the upper hand, and that is just Rhyme being that much better in the current meta, being such a strong pick. And although it doesn't counter and doesn't work so well against the Taka directly, it's still just a good hero alongside that Arden. If he's able to land the gauntlets correctly and able to trap out the enemy team, and open up those opportunities for official Hein to get those kills and be in that close score situation, I think it definitely wins out most of the time.
Yep, I really like the fact that, they actually went for the gold mine this game and just putting emphasis on the snowball potential, because they do realize that Taka can immediately delete Han Jaeger if Han Jaeger wasn't careful. And in 2 team fights already, I enjoy seeing how Sync1 is playing on this Taka. Very target focused, constantly just jumping on top of Han Jaeger, not quite giving him the space to breathe and the space to just dance around like you like to say. But Bren Esports definitely still have got what it takes to come back. They just need to farm up. Mr. Jim just need the items. Currently he's sitting on that Sorrow Blade, on that Poison Shift. Don't quite have the damage as compared to Han Jaeger. Han Jaeger do not quite have the items, but what Han Jaeger can really do is just stack up on those breaking point stacks, get sustain as well with that Vanguard from Arden, and on top of the Vanguard you have, or rather Han Jaeger has got that Poison Shift to help out with that Vampirism or Lifesteal going for him. So the longer he stays in the team fight, the more powerful Han Jaeger get. As with Official High, now that he gets the sustain item in the sense of the Eve of Harvest.
Yep, and we will have to see whether the Eve of Harvest will be that, the Eve of Harvest, whether it will really pay out. You are going against Vitaka. Vitaka is going to be focusing down onto Han Jaeger. Wait for it goes through, and they're able to trap him down, but only for a second. Divine Intervention going to come through, manages to save his life. However, the Fountain already popped for the side of Bren Esports earlier when they backed out of that fight. And now Elite 8 pushing onto this anchor turret so early into the match. A lot of aggression coming out here, and they're going to try and utilize it all. They are deciding to run away from this team fight. However, maybe the smart play, let them bait the side of Bren Esports into fighting them in better territory, whereas rather than fighting them under their turret, because they know for another at least 30 seconds, Guessing isn't going to have that Fountain.
Yep, and Guessing do not have the Fountain for the next 20 seconds, but at this point you see that Mr. Jim is going for the tension bow. So what Mr. Jim is doing really is just settling for the very old Idris build. Do I like it? Not so much. I mean, there is so much changes made to heroes' health, heroes' defenses. I personally don't quite like the tension bow pickup. I would personally prefer if Mr. Jim went for crit. Crit will work just so much better, a lot more damage, and you really want the burst as well.
Taka jumping onto that backline, but does get rude. There's going to be the Valkyrie, and it doesn't really catch out anyone except for Guessing slightly. Meanwhile, Mr. Jim trying to go around the backline gets caught out, and this Rhyme just doing so much work, instantly taking down Mr. Jim to follow through with catching out Sync1 on that Taka, and didn't even pick up the Dragon's Eye. As you said, it is a bit of an optional pick to substitute it for the Shatter Glass, where we do see they went for the Shatter Glass first off into the Eve, and I think that provides a bit more instant damage into a fight with someone that's going to be in your face really quickly like the Taka and the Idris. It's not a bad pickup to go for that rather than trying to expect to build up your stacks on an item like Dragon's Eye, even if it might get you more crystal power in the end.
Yep, and I mean Dragon's Eye is maybe, say, the 3rd or 4th item coming through, but generally that's not what you'll see from Rhyme. Rhyme really likes the pierce because he wants you to stay in the fight for a very long time. So maybe the Shelter Glass into Eve of Harvest into Dragon's Eye will out-damage Broken Myth. Yeah, I think that will actually out-damage Broken Myth. If we consider double Shelter Glass has always out-damaged Broken Myth. So, coming into this, Anime Save Me in a very, very dangerous position.
Does get jumped on and uses the Vanguard on himself. This now means Elite 8 have to be careful, as the Vanguard not going to be up for another few seconds, and it could mean Taka able to pick up a kill onto Vox on that backline, who's chasing down Mr. Jim, able to pick up that kill, and now just going back into the fight. Taka up in that top rush, not going to get spotted out. However, Guessing on Grace does get chased down for a bit, and now Elite 8 turning their attention back to the lane, maybe wanting to push this through. Not really any objectives on the fold for them to take at this point, as it's hard to really push up to that initial turret, but they're going to go for the gold mine anyway. I was just looking at the amount of gold that Goldmine had, and I didn't think it would be worth it, but Elite 8, maybe considering any gold at this point to push them even further is worth it, as they get 158 per member, now sitting at 35.7k over to the 28.5k. So Elite 8 looking very good into this game, and I'm not too sure what it is that Bren Esports are really able to do to get onto this box without getting caught out themselves.
I want to say what went really wrong for Bren Esports is just allowing the snowball from the start. Minimizer and I did mention before the start of game that Elite 8, or rather Bren Esports, have to play passive, but not also passive till they get their level 6. But when they do get their level 6, what happened was Sync 1 did not quite have the items needed for that snowball, for that gank. What Sync 1 really had was just a Stormcrown banner, and that is quite frowned upon in this current update. Atlas Pauldron dropped onto Idris, but the side of Elite 8 will back off unless Hanjäger or Official Hein may be looking for more.
Maybe indeed, as these teams looking like they're ready to fight, at least Elite 8 looking like they're ready to siege this initial, this anchor turret as they go in with the gauntlet. Great use of it. It's really keeping the whole team of Elite 8 out there, and go give it up to Anime Save Me for that gauntlet placement, just helping them secure their objective. However, now without the Echo, Anime Save Me is in a bit of a situation where the side of Bren Esports know they have an opportunity here to fight without having to worry about getting zoned out and having to fight so close quarters against Official Hein on that Rhyme. It might be the chance they need to get onto Hanjägers, but they need to make use of this opportunity soon. Mr. Jim does get caught out with the resonance behind that wall and the flare. Now both teams just being very cautious going into this next fight.
Very, very cautious, but Elite 8 ever so slightly inching towards a 10k gold lead, now sitting at 40k for themselves, and the side of Bren Esports slightly lesser, 100 gold lesser to that 32,000, but now a fight will break out.
It will indeed. Taka trying to jump onto that box, but it gets vanguarded, and there's going to be the wait for him return. Luckily, Official Hein not able to find anyone, at least luckily for the side of Bren Esports, but Hanjäger is going in deep with the chase. They're now going to turn around, might even try to start this Kraken up. I think Elite 8 in a very good spot, not too much to lose for themselves with all the turrets that they have up, and they're going to try burst this one down. There's going to be a contest from the side of Bren Esports as they go in. Taka onto the backline, will get locked up by the Rhyme into the Chill Winds, into the Valkyrie, gets stunned up, and Sync 1 looking solo. There's going to be the Divine Intervention to keep him alive, but Grace going to walk into that Gauntlet Wall, getting trapped out and killed by Hanjägers. Hanjägers now trying to chase down the Idris. Meanwhile, Official Hein was looking for that Taka, but he snuck past him and just manages to get out there alive. Speaking about getting out there barely alive, Hanjäger's almost falling to Mr. Jim, but does manage to get the Fountain of Renewal benefits to heal him there, and the ace going over to the side of Elite 8, who you said just at this point so strong and inching up to that 10k gold lead. Definitely going to be able to take it by the time they finish out this game with this Kraken push. We do see 23 seconds until Sync 1 is up. Guessing will be up now, and Mr. Jim in another 10 seconds. But we can see Vox already went into the base to make use of that and almost took down both turrets there.
Almost, but not quite. But the Kraken will definitely start pushing in. Helga's only objective and only, one thing to do. Helga's goal is basically just to push turrets down, and with how tanky Kraken is as now, hope the Gauntlet drops.
There's going to be the Gauntlet indeed, an early one not inside the base, but it's going to be well utilized as they're able to pick up a kill from it. Not sure what Mr. Jim has been doing at the moment. Looks like he's given up. A bit of bad sportsmanship there, I must say, but we're going to see the Kraken finish off the match as it takes down the Crystal and yells at it. This is my Crystal, this is my map. Of course, Elite 8 able to win that one out 12-2. Very well played, 19 minutes, 16 in, and just a very good team comp put together and well utilized overall.
Yep, I want to say that Bren Esports definitely came in very, very strong in the first series with that very unexpected weapon battle pickup. But coming in the next two series, the first